We are just hours away now from a 9 a.m. Wednesday meeting of the entire House Democratic Caucus. The big question, how far are Democrats willing to go in the wake of the administration's ongoing efforts to defy committee requests? Correspondent Doug McKelway on Capitol Hill looking for answers.
There were two Judiciary Committee no-shows today. No former White House counsel Don McGahn and no bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. The latter, a sign that Democrats may have dispensed with humor and turned to anger and a growing impeachment resolve.
I see a lot more people that believe that impeachable offenses occurred.
The lingering question remains, is the House Democratic leadership among them? Majority Whip Jim Clyburn was still non-committal today.
We'll win it. There's no need to do anything that might turn out to be stupid.
Majority Leader Steny Hoyer used his strongest language yet, telling reporters it's, quote, the largest, broadest cover-up in U.S. history. Though she denied feeling pressure last night.
Madam Speaker, are you under increased pressure to impeach the president from your caucus?
No.
A tipping point may have been reached with Don McGahn's subpoena snubbed today, the second after Attorney General William Barr's refusal to testify earlier this month. That, combined with unrelenting pressure from her caucus's rank and file.
The President of the United States of America needs to be impeached.
And the first Republican defection.
I think it's appropriate to do so.
Sue?
Speaker Pelosi is in charge of that, not me.
May have helped force Pelosi's hand. So may have her meeting late last night with Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler. Today, his opening remarks before an empty witness seat read like the roadmap to impeachment that many Democrats said the Mueller report was intended to be. Nadler quoted from the report.
The president then told Mr. McGahn to tell the American people something that was not true. He asked him to deny those reports publicly. Mr. McGahn again refused the president's order. He refused the president's order to lie to the American people on the president's behalf.
If tomorrow's meeting does result in the launch of impeachment proceedings, at least one Senate Republican seemed to welcome it.
If you really believe that he obstructed justice as a member of the House or a member of the Senate as a Democrat, then do something about it.
Senator Graham clearly knows, as Pelosi does, that an impeachment conviction in the Senate requires a two-thirds majority vote, and the votes simply are not there. In addition, impeachment is fraught with risk, as Republicans found in the impeachment of President Bill Clinton in the late 1990s, when Republicans lost 5 seats in the House and gained none in the Senate. Shannon?
All right, Doug McKelway on Capitol Hill. Thank you. So what's at stake for Democrats as they try to get united on this issue of impeachment? Let's talk about it with former Clinton advisor Richard Goodstein and National Press Secretary for the Trump 2020 campaign, Kayleigh McEnany. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, Shannon.
Okay, first impressions from both of you guys. Big meeting at 9 a.m. tomorrow, all the House Democrats together. There are plenty of members who are out there publicly saying, let's do it. Richard, for now, it seems like the leadership has been very tentative. Are they inching closer?
So I think there's a couple things going on. First, I think the notion of a schism has been overblown. I think every Democrat wants to get to the bottom of what happened. And I don't think that they feel like that story has been told, certainly not publicly.
By the Mueller report?
Well, I'm saying it's not been told through the... I saw every Watergate witness with my own eyes. I literally was around the corner in an office that summer and saw every single one of them. And I think that had an effect on the public that had there just been a report, Richard Nixon probably would have served out his term. But instead, people actually kind of could hear and see what was going on, and it really didn't go down well. I do think, though, this notion...
Well, is that the goal this time, then?
No, I think the goal is for the American people. Look, the Russians attacked our system. It's sweeping and systematic way.
I think everybody should agree on that.
Right. And yet... most Republicans don't agree on that. We've talked about this before.
Okay, where are you getting that from, though? Because a number of them say, like, it's terrible.
The Washington Post poll of April 1st, basically, which postdated the issuance of the Mueller report.
Okay.
And postdated Bill Barr saying there was no collusion and no obstruction, both of which are just untrue factually. Let me just say one final thing. I'll let Kayleigh.
Well, okay, but you can't just throw that out there and say that that's a settled matter. I mean, let's bring Kayleigh into this,
of course,
and then we'll continue our conversation.
Please.
Is he right?
No, I mean, it was amazing because Robert Mueller was the god of all things right and correct and truthful. And then he comes out and says, no collusion. That was Robert Mueller. And all of a sudden, that's to be dismissed because Democrats live in a fact-free reality. And he also punted on the question of obstruction of justice. Bill Barr said no obstruction of justice. There was no obstruction. There was no collusion. And by the way, the American people are sending a pretty loud message. In the Fox poll, 50% saying we don't want impeachment. And the Harvard-Harris poll, 65%. And what do Democrats say? We don't care.
Right.
So you move forward at this at your own peril. It's not what the American people want. You want to be on the wrong side of it? I guess by all means.
Let's talk about a couple of warnings here because we have Professor Jonathan Turley, not a conservative guy, but well-respected. And he says under the headline, Democrats are running out of stunts to pull from impeachment playbook. He says their unwillingness to actually open an impeachment inquiry has undermined their claims that obstruction crimes were well established. So, Richard, is it time to call the bluff?
Let me just talk about this fact-free stuff. Robert Mueller specifically said, I am not addressing the word collusion. And every single surrogate, every single one. No coordination. Okay. So I would just plead with every Trump surrogate, please stop saying the very thing that Robert Mueller specifically said, I am not addressing.
Okay, but he did say there were numerous outreaches from the Russians and a lot of bad actors. So everybody should agree on that. But he said
chairman meeting with a Russian spy to give him the most secret polling data.
But Kayleigh, what did he find?
No, he found no coordination, a synonym for collusion. But here we are again. They're saying collusion, 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 the same thing they've been saying for 2 years. Then it's obstruction. At what point do you say, hey, the American people are more important than this? Let's legislate. Let's stop investigating. It is just simply not what the American people want.
So to Jonathan Turley's point and to Kayleigh's point, and even yours about what are the political implications of this? Doug McElway talked about Clinton, impeachment, Democrats picking up 5 seats. George W. Bush ran on, bringing dignity and back to the White House to a fare thee well. And had Bill Clinton not been put through impeachment, I question whether or not, with the economy doing as well as it was, that Al Gore wouldn't have won. But George Bush ran that thing to a fare thee well. So the notion that somehow this is going to backfire on Democrats, I just don't see the evidence of that.
Okay, well, in the Washington Post, this is an opinion piece by Megan McArdle, says this. It will not be easy to remove the president on a purely procedural charge without proving an underlying crime. Just ask Republicans who futilely impeached Bill Clinton. So, Kayleigh, do they run a risk here? Because there's a big part of their base that says, we want this. Why haven't you guys acted? There's plenty of stuff out there against him, and we don't understand why you're hesitating.
Right. And to that point, there is no underlying crime. You can't obstruct something that is a non-crime, as the president says time and time again. But, here it's amazing because the Republican House passed twice as many bills so far as the Democratic House. Why? Because the focus was on how can we better the lives of the American people, rise their paychecks, bring unemployment to generational lows. You don't hear about that from Democrats. You don't hear about health care. You don't hear about any of this. You hear about the
I think some of them want to talk about that.
Maybe some of them, but their base won't let them.
I agree with Kayleigh in this regard.
Quick.
Democrats, if they go impeachment, they question whether shoring up health care, doing something about gun violence, doing something about infrastructure and so forth will be heard.
And I think that's the big meeting tomorrow where they have that decision and that conversation. So thank you both for this conversation, for coming in.